I'm leaving, but by the time you've seen this, I'll already be long gone. I said the same words once, but on the other side, the before time. I was a bright-eyed kid moving to the big city. And sure, I was from a big city myself, Houston, but it's different. New York City is the city, the world city. I was filled with an energy of anticipation and excitement that only a big life change can stir. I had landed a job in New York, and though it was never my plan or dream to go there, I went. Like so many before me, I pared down and threw whatever could fit into 2 checked bags, found roommates who were once strangers, signed a lease in less than 2 weeks. Standard fare. And so my next chapter began, and I threw myself into it wholeheartedly. They say that if you make it here, you can make it anywhere. That may be so, but I couldn't make it here. At least, not in the way that I had thought. I made it here in that I came to New York, and I made it here in that I made something of my time here. Surely, that counts for something, no? Well, I think it depends on the measure. We live our lives evaluating how things are going with familiar yardsticks. Money, status, prestige, and that nebulous idea called happiness. If we're using those, I don't feel particularly successful. But, and I realized this too late, I was holding the wrong yardstick all along. So what did I really make? What was the measure of my life as a young 20-something in New York City? Well, nothing tangible, save for the relationships made and people I met. I sure as hell wasn't saving anything. Friends, coworkers, a first love. I made and had experiences, memories. The things I learned and the life I lived. And in my book, that's as good of a measure as any. Now, standing at the end of it all, I've chosen to move on from the life I built here, and I'll get onto that in a minute. On the precipice of this big life change I'm making, I feel an energy of anticipation and excitement again that only a big life change can stir. But there's something more amidst it. There's fear. There's a bittersweetness to this long goodbye. I built something for myself in New York, and to return home, it feels like a step back. I know, though, deep down, it's a good change. A change for the better. Let's jump back to my arrival in New York City. I was bursting with excitement, a new life. I talked lots, walked fast, partied, and ate so much pizza that I exacerbated my lactose intolerance. I gave my new life my all, and I bought in. It was fun for a time, until it wasn't. In coming here, I actually lost who I was. That chipper, wide-eyed version of myself that I had known, he disappeared. Or perhaps he got swallowed up in matching the pace of the place he found himself in. I grew hardened, tired, irritable, and at times I sank into a deep, deep depression. Fun became a chore, and friends an obligation. I grew dissatisfied with my career. I hated my reflection in the mirror each morning. Life I found to be an inconvenient circumstance. I had changed, and I did not recognize myself. I found in the discomfort some other changes that I did not plan for. My spirit moved in small ways to protect myself from the pain I experienced. Minute adjustments that went unnoticed at first. Saying no more to things, because actually, I did not want to go to some party that a loose friend I had met in passing months ago was hosting. Drawing boundaries. Going to bed early, waking up even earlier. I found comfort in my routines and did anything within my power to ensure that my routine could happen. Going to the gym, which was my rock to feel grounded amidst life's uncertainties. Reclaiming my time. Yes, I had changed, and I did not recognize myself. And even stranger, I noticed that these changes were causing others to realize that I was different too. These tiny acts of defiance against my own status quo were healthy changes, though, acts of self-love and self-care from my present self to a future one. I had realized, perhaps subconsciously, that nobody was going to help me, and so I had to help myself. Despite the positives, the person I found myself to be was a construction, a shell, fabricated to protect myself from the place I now called my home. It looked externally like I lived a whole life, but in actuality, my soul wasn't all there and I was just going through the motions. You'll hear Empire State of Mind on repeat whenever you go out in the town here. I remember belting along to the chorus on many late nights with Alicia Keys, feeling the ambition and energy of it all. But I forgot. Bright lights cast dark shadows. And the bright lights of the big city, they created deep, dark shadows within me. I was shackled by cuffs of my own design. You may think, though, but didn't you just talk about all the positive things that happened as a result of the hard times? Didn't you grow? To that, I say yes. Yes, I did. However, there was still cognitive dissonance within me. Although I had cultivated healthy habits and systems, I, at my core, still considered myself a victim of my environment and circumstances. As the years passed, I went from obsessing over the magic of New York to hyper-fixating on how hard everything felt. I lived in a precarious balance, paycheck to paycheck, and couldn't save. Hanging out with a friend came with an additional price tag, a choice between disappointing them or ending the week with an overdrafted account. Every night out, every shared drink or dinner to uphold the illusion of doing fine came at the expense of my future self, and neither self could afford it. I carried debt and guilt, and a fear that things would not get better. I was stuck, and yet I held on for dear life, refusing to face the problem. I clung on to hope that somehow, my lot would magically improve. It did not. This was my victimhood, the reason I was miserable. To live in New York City is to admit to yourself at some level deep down that you're addicted to chronic stress. I certainly was, for a long, long time. And I lacked the honesty to admit to myself that it was not something that happened to me. I happened to myself, and it was my fault. Now, it was not all bad. New York City was a grand teacher, firm and unrelenting, yet kind and loving in ways unexpected. I was one of its many humble students. A dear friend of mine loves to joke that there are no more original thoughts, so let me borrow one from author E.B. White. In Here's New York, he wrote, "There are roughly 3 New Yorks. There's first, the New York of the man or woman who was born here, who takes the city for granted and accepts its size and its turbulence as natural and inevitable. Second, there is the New York of the commuter, the city that is devoured by locusts each day and spat out each night. Third, there is the New York of the person who was born somewhere else and came to New York in quest of something. Commuters give the city its tidal restlessness, natives give it solidity and continuity, but the settlers give it passion. From each of these New Yorks, I learned. Of the first, I learned from natives the attitude of the Northeast, the rich history and fabric of the world city, a place of hardship and sacrifice, and a place where many came for a better life. A place where ancestors once arrived with nothing but names and dreams, and whose descendants now walk fast, speak straightly, and love harder than they let on. I was taught what it meant to be a New Yorker, not just the resilient independence or take no bullshit attitude. There was so much more unspoken. New Yorkers offer no apologies for who they are or how they live, and yet, when the moment arrives, they offer everything. Directions to the lost tourist, or a hand to the stranger struggling to carry their stroller down the subway stairs. I learned to notice moments of quiet beauty amidst the chaos. The sunset over the Hudson, the hush of snowfall in Central Park at dawn, and perhaps most importantly, I learned how to begin again. New York forces you to fall and to fail and dares you to get back up and keep on walking. Of the second, I learned the value of time. I too was a commuter, a rat in the race. Each morning I rose and the 4, 5, 6 was my deliverance. Well, the F was 2 once upon a time, but we had a tenuous relationship. I rose to the pace of New York, walking fast and talking faster, knowing which way was east when stepping out of the subway platform. I asked questions like, do we even have time to take a taxi? And doesn't it feel like it's been 2 weeks when it had only been 3 days? Yes, I learned about time. My calendar became my life, slotting time to hang out, eat, work, and even sleep like it was some sort of twisted Tetris. The calendar, too, was an unexpected ramification to protect my own time. Intended to be a tool, it became all-consuming. Time is denser there, and everyone truly is going a mile a minute. What I had to learn the hard way is that you can't walk at that pace forever. Lastly, as a transplant, I did come in quest of something. The city called me, and I answered. I hope that I added to the passion and the love of the city, but, as I ask myself to this day, what was I looking for? I forgot why I came. Or rather, I never really knew. My quest in coming was aimless, other than to start my career, but regardless of that, I found some of the best people I ever met. A constellation of brilliant souls, people that loved to read, loved art, loved business, loved creativity, loved food, loved adventure, loved life. I found a begrudging love for all of the little frictions in life too there, like having to walk up a 5-floor staircase just to get home every day, or groaning under my breath when my train was now suddenly skipping my stops. I collected them like patches, little reminders that, yeah, I did live here. What I truly found were surprises I was blessed to discover, a version of myself built, mostly, by my own hand, the young adult version of myself. All in all, considering the difficulties and the triumphs, he did great. For all of its friction, it is a beautiful place to live and was for me. One more from E.B. White on this topic. The city makes up for its hazards and its deficiencies by supplying its citizens with massive doses of a supplementary vitamin. The sense of belonging to something unique, cosmopolitan, and unparalleled. Yes, I was a transplant, and thankfully, I felt this belonging. For what you don't get in the way of vitamin D, you do get something special and unique. This pride of being in the place where it all happens. This is the magic people speak of, and I too was entranced by its spell. That being said, we are not plants. Humor me with my extended metaphor. Though we choose to take root and grow, sometimes the soil we choose fails to nourish us. Thankfully, we have legs, and so we can uproot and move on to more fertile pastures. At some point this year, something shifted for me. I felt that I was not being enriched anymore, and hell, I was suffering. I finally summoned the courage to do something about it all. That same friend once sent me an image of a Louise Bourgeois piece titled, "To unravel a torment, you must begin somewhere," from her series, What is the Shape of This Problem? The artwork shows red concentric circles scattered in chaotic disarray, paired with the calm, serifed text of the title below. And I bring this up because that was exactly how I felt. Tangled, trapped, chaos within. I knew the answer, but taking action was another matter entirely. Eventually, I listened and I took action. Yes, it's hard, and yes, new knots will form, but you have to begin somewhere or the torment stays knotted, right where it is. TLDR, I learned lots, and I experienced tons of change within myself. I hit stagnation, and I decided, finally, to shed my victim mentality and reclaim the agency I have over my own life. And so, I've set off down this new path, one unclear and uncertain, but also the path back home. Making the choice to return to my hometown was difficult, and physically leaving was doubly so. It, on the surface, feels like I'm running away, tail tucked between my legs because I couldn't make it work. In reality, I'm returning to familiarity for a chance to reset and restock, to recenter before charting course to the next island on the grand odyssey of life. I will dust off those pieces of me long tucked away and place them back up on the shelf for all to view. And something new again will be born, not in spite of the ending, but because of it. Something new begins. Now, I must say that I did not just stumble upon this realization. It required a lot of conversation, both within myself and with others that I trust. Lots of pondering, journaling, ruminating, and working on how to combat that. Sleepless and anxious nights, and wondering what I could do to make it better. Yes, it took a lot of work, but when I finally spoke my intent to move into existence, and then also spoke my intent to move to myself, I felt a release. My soul was freed. Something was right about it, like I had found the edge of the paved road and chose to keep walking. My journey home is not an admission of defeat. No, it is not remotely close to that. My leaving is an acknowledgement of strength, admitting that I must go to grow, I must move in order to heal. This admission, this departure, it's a triumph, a grand homecoming and return to myself. You know, it's funny. I said many times that I left my hometown, where I spent nearly 2 decades growing up and living. I would never return. Well, life has a funny way of changing your mind about things. Homecoming doesn't have to be large. Sure, for me it is quite literally a return to my roots. I think that it's more than that, however. It can be something inconsequential, returning to an old hobby, rekindling relationships that have gathered the dust of distance and time, wanting to explore again, but with fresh eyes and new perspective. It's returning to something soft and familiar, not because it's easy, but because it's comfortable, and allows you to begin again. To step off the sidewalk and feel dirt under your feet. To hear your own breath again, and walk a path that belongs only to you. Every return is also a beginning with experience and a different worldview. It is a quiet reckoning, and in the introspection you grow. Then, one day, you will be ready to strike out again on your next great voyage. I had been living a life not meant for me. It was one scripted by someone else. I just happened to pick up the book and say, yeah, this seems good enough. Did this big move solve that problem? No, but I did take a layer off, admitting to myself, finally, that this life does not fit me anymore. It was sizes too small. Perhaps you find yourself in a similar situation, stuck in a dead-end job, repeating the endless cycle of wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Praying for the weekend, for the brief respite of 48 hours of unstructured time that's all yours, if you have a standard work week. Feeling trapped in a relationship that's suffocating you, wondering if your life could change, asking if there's something more for you out there. It's a difficult situation to be in, and even more difficult are the questions that follow it. When I was most lost, I turned to a question from one of my favorite characters in one of my favorite shows. You probably know him. Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender. At one point in the show, Iroh's nephew Zuko is conflicted and struggling within himself to make a choice, to either continue down the path defined by his past and his trauma, or to define a new self, a life of his own choosing. Iroh says to him at this pivotal moment, "It's time for you to look inward and start asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?" I often found myself coming back to this question, much like how a Pokemon professor's voice will echo in your head if you try to use your bike in a place that doesn't make much sense. I could not answer this question, but by asking it, I took a step in getting a little closer. If we keep asking, maybe one day we find an answer. And maybe the answer isn't loud or grand, but quiet, plain, a simple truth. A low cloud hangs over many of us young 20-somethings, the quiet ache of feeling lost. And the feeling of behind some arbitrary timeline not set by us, but set for us. I myself feel this, if my ramblings here are no indication. For some of you, moving to a new city feels like the answer, or at least the hope of finding one. In uncertainty, we search for something, for meaning, to fill a space within us. And maybe, just maybe, we will find ourselves. Some of us get lucky, stumbling early into what serves as a foundation for a beautiful life. Maybe you'll be that person. Or perhaps you won't find it, and you'll have to build it yourself instead. I think that your best self does not yet exist. Mine certainly does not. This sounds harsh, but I think it's not reachable. It's an ideal like infinity. But that does not stop us from trying, nor should it stop us from trying. Life's rewards are in the pursuit of the ideal, the chase and inching one bit closer, day by day, and making it a reality. To live this way, that's your current self striving to be its best. If you're still with me, thank you. Thank you for listening to the musings of another soul on his meandering journey. If anything here resonated with you, sit with it, journal about it, think on it. Then go talk about it, go share it with your friends and your loved ones. Thank you for spending your time with me. I'll leave you with one last thing. Take the leap and make the change. See what happens. Let me ask you now, who are you and what do you want?